This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. KANAWHA Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosts Civil War reenactments, ATV rodeos, mud bogs, diesel truck pulls, and high school rodeo finals. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a welcome back to Amy Atkinson, Virginia Commission on Youth. We thank you so much for being back, and Delegate Chris Peace. And we're going to talk about the commission and what this commission has been doing between 2012 session and here as we're approaching the end of 2013. So Amy, you start us off on that, and we'll get the delegate involved as well.
All right. The Commission on Youth, we're a bipartisan commission of the Virginia General Assembly. And bipartisan is important because issues that involve children are not partisan at all. And we have 6 members from the House of Delegates, 3 senators, and we have 3 citizen members appointed by the governor. And each year our agenda changes and our priorities and initiatives change. And this year we're looking at several different things. One of the things that we're looking at and studying is kinship care and the importance of families taking care of families. Another thing that we're studying and looking at is restoration of parental rights. And that's in cases where the Department of Social Services has taken children into their custody, and the children are in foster care and they're getting ready to age out of foster care, and going back and to look to see if going back to the family, their parents, is in the best interest of the child. And another thing that we're looking at is we're doing a big study on the comparative of Virginia students with other leading international countries. And we're finishing the 2-year study of that coming up, and we'll be making our recommendations to the Commission in December. And something that we're always working on is children's mental health issues. We've done a lot of work on evidence-based treatments for children with mental health treatment needs. And one of the things I think that's important about that is Virginia spends a lot of resources on children's mental health. And before the Commission took on this initiative, we really didn't know what worked and what didn't work. So it was quite possible for children to be receiving services that we knew scientifically were ineffective. So this is just a tool for practitioners, stakeholders, for families to look at if their child has childhood depression, anxiety, ADHD, or any of the other common mental health disorders, that they can look to see what is effective in treating these disorders.
Wow, you got a lot going on. So
that's a lot.
Let's start with the
And
last.
we're small.
Yeah.
We're small. We have a staff of 3. And of course, we have our commission, and they ask us and tell us what we need to do, and we follow their marching orders, what they ask us to do.
So what if we start with the last issue and work back through some of those on the mental health part? So help our viewers again understand how what you've studied now for this time and continue to study is useful for them, how they can find this information?
Well, one of the best things about, I think, this resource is I'm not a practitioner, and neither is anybody on my staff. So we're research. We do research. And when we put this resource together, it's literally like 20 reports into one report. But we wrote it to where we could understand it. We did a lot of graphs. We took the scientific and the hard to understand verbiage that they use in this field, and we wrote it to where we could understand it in hopes that when families read it, things can make sense to them, and that they would know better what they're dealing with their child and what services that they need, and also to ask for those services as well. I talked to a mom that had a child with autism, and she actually used this resource for the IEP process. For the schools. She took it, showed that her child, what was needed for her child was what we listed as evidence-based treatments. And of course, every parent wants the best for their child. And parents, you know, and as taxpayers don't want to spend money on things that don't work. Right. So, you know, this resource is just, it's a guide, and it's on the internet. That's one of the best things. The report is over 200 pages, and nobody wants to read that. But if you have a child that has ADHD, you would be interested in reading those 12 pages. And a good thing about it's web linked. So if there's an article that we cited, you can click onto it and it can take you right to that article.
Excellent.
And another thing that we included is resources at the end of each section. Places that families can go to. You can click on it and it'll take you to the associations, the advocacy groups that work specifically with those disorders.
So I think we have that web address. We'll make sure it's up on the screen and viewers can see it. So it's when they go to that Commission on Youth address that they can find this information.
And just to let you know how widely used, when we first started this, we had 97 hits a month on our web page. We have got as much now as 40,000. So we went from 97 hits to 40,000 hits for people accessing this resource. And it's just not Virginians. We were contacted by a professor in California that wanted to use this resource for her master's level class. So it's available to anybody that has internet access, or we've also did an initiative where we made sure that all of our universities have access to this as well.
Good.
And the website is a great place to learn how to make public comment as well. As a commission, we're a deliberative body, and these research projects are certainly based in part upon the good research of the staff, which does an amazing job, but also our advisory groups that we establish that help, sort of mull over the information and make sure it's accurate and technically correct, and then ultimately the public comment phase, which is integral part of any legislative process. Because in the end, a lot of times our studies will make recommendations to the General Assembly that the Commission will either endorse or not. And so we want the public to be fully participating in those matters. Children matter. They're probably our greatest resource as a society. And if you talk about capital investment, I like to refer to it as human capital. And we need to continue to make strides to make sure our early childhood education is strong, so children are reading on grade level by age 3 and avoiding problems down the road that cost all of us more, not just the child themselves. To make sure our K through 12 system is robust. That's why we're looking at this international comparison. We even have a delegation traveling to see firsthand how schools in other countries function, how we look at ourselves. Hold up that mirror, see what we're doing well, see what we're not, because children matter. And then again, we've had a great emphasis starting with Governor McDonnell last year on higher education. So this is a full spectrum opportunity to make sure that children from early on are getting what they need, being educated, and then ready to work, ready to go to college, ready to earn a living and provide for their families long term. The Commonwealth is a stronger place when we invest in our children, and the Commission on Youth is a big part of that.
Depending on which study or which report you hear, we can hear that we're way down the list in math or way down the list in other things. So in this study, is there a body of international literature, or which countries are you looking at, or how are you doing this?
When we started our study comparing Virginia with other leading international countries, one of the things that we looked at was which countries are leading the way. And we of course had to narrow that down. So we picked 5 countries that we focused on. And these were the top performing international countries: Canada, South Korea, Finland, Singapore, and we looked at Shanghai for China. Those are the 5 countries that we looked at, and each one of those countries outperforms U.S. students across the board. And some of the things that Delegate Peace mentioned, I think is important. He mentioned preschool, and if you look at the primary education of these other countries, that's one of the things that they are doing a better job than we are doing here in the United States and also here in Virginia. Some of the countries, when you look at them, I don't know if Virginia, we take pride in being Virginians, and we certainly don't want to be like other nations, but I think that we can learn from where they're succeeding. Finland, for example, is almost a universal preschool system that they have. But looking across the board, if you look at the countries and where they're getting the biggest bang for their buck, it's the teachers. The teachers are where you make the biggest difference in academic achievement for students.
Do these 5 countries have what's sometimes referred to as year-round school, or do they do a 9 months and a certain number of days like we do? Or?
Right. That's a good question too, because I think a lot of people would be surprised in the answer with that, because American students spend more time in the classroom than these other students. We spend almost on a daily basis twice as much time in the classroom as the students do in Finland. And Finland is outperforming, Finnish students are outperforming Virginia and U.S. students on every measurable outcome.
You know, with 2 daughters who are involved in public school system too, I would wonder about those other countries. Do they pay their teachers better than we do in the U.S. or say even in Virginia?
Well, I would say that we certainly respect and value our teachers, but I'm not sure if our teachers are getting that same message. I know that there's been a challenge over the last couple of years when we've looked at K-12 reform, that it seems and may feel, if you're a teacher, as though you're under attack. And I would say that that's just not true, that we do value and respect our teachers. We need to back that up with action. Certainly we want 65% or more dollars to be spent in the classroom and not in administration and overhead.
Sure.
We want it to hit the road. We want the rubber to hit the road in the classroom. But we do need to look at ways where we can value and respect that teacher monetarily through strategic compensation. Look at ways that we can help them in their career and continuing education, how we can add that career development piece more specifically to what is a benefit as a teacher. Most of these countries that are succeeding around the world have teachers as one of the top 1 or 2, say, maybe top 5 at least, professions that people want to go into. That is not the same in America. In many cases, that people end up in teaching by default. And that's not the teacher's fault. That's our societal challenge. We need people to say, I want to be a teacher just as much as they say they want to be Kim Kardashian or a pro athlete or a doctor or a lawyer. Teachers are probably with our children more than parents are. And it is so critically important that we have teachers who feel valued, who have the credentials and are experts in their field, and that we create the environment that we can sustain that, where people want to become teaching professionals continuing on. And that's a role of the community. It's certainly a role of the legislature. And I think you'll see in the upcoming session a greater emphasis on, when we talk about K-12 reform, it's not saying you're bad and not doing well. It's saying there are opportunities that exist, and we're going to work together to do the best for our children.
Interesting study. And that one, is that one that you'll be wrapping up soon? Or?
Yes, all of our studies that we're doing this year, we will be presenting our findings and recommendations to the Commission December 3rd. So they will be voting on those recommendations with full input from the advisory groups that we formed and also from the public as well. But yes, and you will see a lot of the recommendations on those studies, particularly the comparison of academic achievement, is focused on teachers, because we really feel like teachers need support, teachers need to be compensated for what they're worth, and we need to attract more highly qualified people to go into the teaching profession.
You know, just recently, my younger daughter, who's elementary school reading specialist, was telling me about a friend of hers who's now living in, well, I'll mention the state, Tennessee, not getting administrative support in the school with discipline problems, and probably by the time this program is airing, she will have submitted her resignation to that school because just not getting support from the principal, from the administration on the discipline problem. So that can even happen in Virginia as well.
Opportunities abound, but we need to take a look at the things that we can address, you know, early.
Right.
And speaking of early, I know we mentioned early childhood education. You know, we passed a bill in the 2012 session that deals with reading on grade level by age 3. My concern is that we've actually set a goal that's unachievable because we aren't doing a better job earlier. You know, if you're not 4 and 5 and learning how to read and staying on track, and in kindergarten, first grade, then the 3rd grade, that's a meaningless and arbitrary number with great consequences. So Smart Beginnings, Hampton Roads, Smart Beginnings here in the Richmond area have been doing a great job in assisting from the private side, working with our school system and our children, getting them up to speed on their reading, because as you've heard it said so many times, reading is fundamental, and it's so critical to so many things long term, whether it's looking at the statistics on income long term, your earning potential, whether you're going to stay out of the criminal justice system, you know, getting that reading skill down early is very important.
So what's now one of those other studies that you have that's going to be wrapped up here by the end of this year?
Well, I was going to say the commission has been active over the last several years, and Amy is the sort of the constant thread that keeps everybody on track. Former Chairman William Fralin, 2 chairmans ago, had done a great job looking at truancy and dropout prevention, and we actually worked with the Department of Education to define what a cohort is and better identify so the numbers, the data that you get out on graduation rates is truer. Our former chairman, Yvonne Miller, who just recently passed away, was a true advocate and champion of the child. She was the one who started this comparison of industrialized international nations and their educational system. This year, I've been a passionate advocate on kinship care that Amy had mentioned, because we do believe it's better for families to raise their own children, even the extended family. We do a good job in trying to reduce our overall rates of children who are in foster care. I carried a bill a couple of years ago that said we want to reduce that even more. It costs the government. It's not good for the government to be raising children, and families who have the opportunity to, we want to facilitate that. So our local departments, working with the state, taking some of the information that we provide, some of the nonprofit advocates that are a very important part of the process, Voices for Virginia's Children, other agencies, have been a part of trying to encourage this kinship care piece, because it can serve as an important diversion from the formal placement if you're going an informal route. But even the formal kinship care placements are preferable because they're with an aunt or an uncle or brother or sister, someone who's familiar with the child, and ultimately, as Amy said, in the best interest of the child. And that's the standard we should all aspire to.
And you got a strong chairman again.
Absolutely.
And strong members of the commission
I've been very blessed.
that work with you on that. And so toward the end of the year, then people, even if they miss your last meeting, will be able to go on your website and see the conclusions of some of these studies, see any recommendations that are made. Because quite often from commissions, and I'm sure from your commission as well, there's legislation that emerges after you complete a study.
And budget amendments as well.
Yes, yes.
And we anticipate both. But everything that the commission, everything that we do is posted on our webpage. And I'm from Southwest Virginia, and I'm always pushing to make sure that we look at all of Virginia. And we recently were blessed by getting a citizen member from Norton, Virginia, who's now on our commission, and also Annie B. Crockett Stark. So we have a couple of good folks down from Southwest Virginia that we want to make sure that, you know, when we look at kinship care and families taking care of families, folks down in Southwest Virginia, they understand it and they do it.
That's
and they do it without the government, and they do it well. And we need to make sure that what the government does doesn't mess up what they're doing.
Good point. Good point. So is there yet another study that you all are completing this year?
Yes, the
I
final
thought so.
final one that we're working on is the restoration of parental rights.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that's probably a situation. It's going to be the recommendations that's coming out of the advisory group that will be presented to the commission is very narrowly defined. It's for older children, probably children that were taken away from their moms or their dads when they were very young, have been in foster care, being bounced around, and they're getting ready to age out. They don't have...
When you say age out, is that like 18?
18. They don't have... Adoption isn't going to happen for them. And these children are left with no families, no permanency. And the future for them is, you know, looking at the reports and the studies is very grim. Homelessness, criminal, you know, in the justice system, we need to make sure that these children, they deserve permanency. They deserve a family just as much as my children deserve family. And we want to have a process in place that's a tool for judges, that judges can use in situations that are in the best interest of the child, to make sure that that option is available for these children. To go back to maybe the mom just didn't have her act together. She, you know, had a child when she was young in the teenage years and was abusing drugs and just couldn't take care of the child, and she's got her act back together. And she wants the child back too. And we want to make sure that there's a process in place that this can happen for these families.
We want to foster those connections, and that's actually the name of the federal legislation that deals in foster care, Fostering Connections Act. But when we talk about reducing the amount of children in foster care, we have to have it done safely, safe reductions, and then the permanency piece that Amy mentioned is so important. So you're aging out, you have some stable environment that you can then use as a base for future success. And then that takes all kinds of forms. But this one tool will be a way to have a formal reunification of families where that termination of parental rights has occurred, but to actually restore those in a way that's approved and sanctioned by the process, and then to create that permanency, which is so important for the young person. And I imagine it's very important for the parent too, that we're looking at the big picture and holistically.
So you've probably gotten some models from some other states and seeing how they're doing
Actually,
this.
this is a relatively new concept.
Oh, it
There's
is?
only 11 other states currently have a restorative process for these families. So we have looked very closely at those states.
So you're very much on the cutting edge. It's great for Virginia not to be the 50th state.
That's right. That's right.
As occasionally occurs.
Yes.
Occasionally occurs. So in our closing minute or so that we have, anything else you want to tell the viewers about the commission?
No, I just would encourage folks from all over Virginia to go to our webpage. And if there's an issue that's important to them that they think the commission should look at, we are happy to, I'm happy to take that to our commission so they could consider that to see if that would be a commission, an initiative that they would like to undertake. And you know, Virginia is such a wonderful commonwealth to live in, and children by far are our most valuable resource.
I'm not sure if I could say it any better than Amy just did. We certainly covet the public's input and support of the Commission's work. Again, the Commission on Youth probably has some of the most important work to do because our future depends on it.
The only thing I might add and tell our viewers, I think you all would concur, is if they have some issue and they don't get to you, or you're not their delegate, or one of those others in the commission, they should talk to their delegate or their senator who represents them and say, I saw this program on the Commission on Youth, and I think that you ought to have that commission look at this or that in the coming year. And so that,
good point.
That's a way they can touch any of the 140, and we'll ultimately, hopefully, get some key issues to you all for 2013 and 2014. Amy, thank you so much for being back on this week in Richmond. Delegate Peace, thank you. And to our viewers, we'll be seeing you weekly, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Dave.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. KANAWHA Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosts Civil War reenactments, ATV rodeos, mud bogs, diesel truck pulls, and high school rodeo finals. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.